Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's the problem?
This
What's the matter?
This is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Kid, the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah. Big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you gotta have some violence.
Yeah, no, they didn't have YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, Polar Opposites. Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites podcast on polaropposites.podbean.com. Also on the iTunes and live on Spreaker. You can also follow us on the Twitter at Polar Opposites 1. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
is Craig Moffat.
And Craig,
Matt, it's been a while.
it's been a minute.
We're all working, and we got
life happens, and there you go.
I got to pay the bills. And
There's bills. There's all sorts of stuff. People died. It's a whole thing. You know what I mean? There's, it's a lot going on. But we got a lot to get to today, and we're going to get to it all, we promise. We're going to start with a little baseball. Then we're going to do a little football. We're going to do a little rule changes, which is very exciting for everybody in the NFL. Super excited about that.
I already have that on closing time, so let's save that for closing time.
Do you have all the things, or is it just the?
I have the 5-minute.
Okay,
the
so we can talk
reduction in
about
overtime and the IR and the designation for the second player for IR.
All right, we got to talk about celebrations because.
Or the fact that players can't do kangaroo jumps anymore over the line.
I just love that today because when stuff like this happens, I like to go to Sports Talk Radio and listen to all the old guys who are on Sports Talk Radio.
Back in my day.
Well, first of all, Joe Benigno's like, oh, it's ridiculous. Then you go to Mike Francesa, oh, the video games win. Freaking even Michael K is like, oh, I've given up. I can't win. What's the problem? Why? And we'll get to baseball in a second, but I got to say this first because it bugs the hell out of me. Why is it okay that when LeBron James throws down a dunk with 2 minutes left in the second quarter and he yells out and flexes his arm and thumps his chest, that's okay? Why is that okay? But when a guy catches a touchdown, which is significantly harder to fucking do than fucking dunk a basketball in the NBA, those guys aren't allowed to dance a little bit?
Well, define a little bit.
Well, listen, I'm not saying it should
like,
be,
for example, okay.
I'm not saying
hold
it
on a
should be
second.
like necessary
Hold on a
roughness
second.
or something like
Okay.
that.
Here's what I'll say.
Well,
Listen, I got no beef with when Beckham does a touchdown dance or whatever. He does like whatever. I don't know, like
he does the Michael Jackson line.
Okay,
He
I
likes
don't have a problem with that.
He likes to do the King of Pop.
But sometimes, I mean, listen, some of the celebrations in the past have been very overblown. Like remember that one where Joe Horn from the Saints had the cell phone in the padding?
Yes, of course.
Those are the types of excessive celebrations that are over the top.
But
I got no problem with them wanting to dance a little bit. I mean,
but that's the thing. We know the difference between completely ludicrous and should be fine.
It's like, have you ever seen the movie Basketball?
Yeah.
Okay, remember when?
Yeah, in the beginning.
Remember when the football player, like, they start doing the Irish jig, and then the whole team comes in and like,
of course. If the team breaks out in shapoopy, like Family Guy, then that is a penalty. But why wouldn't, it's a team game. We're all talking about team. Odell doesn't show up for everybody's talking about team. Well, I wasn't a fan, but you used to see like teams celebrate, and then they said that was bad, so they had teams stop celebrating, and then guys started celebrating by themselves, and then we're like, oh, that guy's a me guy, he's not a team guy. Well, the rules said you couldn't celebrate, you're with your teammates. So so they finally got rid of it all, and we don't have to deal with it anymore. Here's the thing, if you get flagged for celebrations in the NFL next year, you have gone above and beyond the knob meter so high that you can use the football as a prop. You just can't do anything like kill signs and guns and bow and arrows and slash the throat. So if you want to do your dance, now they're going to get you. If you can't, like, it's not a routine. This isn't Rhythm Nation, okay? Like, you can't get everybody with chairs and put on leather suits and do a dance.
No?
Just get into the end zone, do a couple moves, and go about your day.
No, that's fine. And listen, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's okay. I mean, but, you know, listen, sometimes to celebrate. Listen, nowadays,
People
this
are
has
going to
become,
push it.
You don't understand. This has kind of become the no fun league because
Well, but that's the
they're
problem,
constantly
right?
throwing flags for dumb shit. And it's going to be the same as you keeps going on and on because players will test the boundaries to see what they can get away with.
But that's why they changed this rule. That's exactly. They saw a dip in ratings, and they knew some of it was because of the election, but they thought some of it was because people aren't having fun, and young kids want to see people have fun, and people play the video game. And you can't put the dances in the video game if the people don't do the dances. And here's the other thing I want to say. I don't know about anybody else, but when my team scores a touchdown, I lose my fucking mind.
You do the whip and nay dance?
I do all sorts of different stuff. Who knows sometimes what happens? But you're excited.
You do like
it's
the
exciting.
You do like the white people dance? Like that.
No. I got soul, and I'm super bad.
Yeah, right.
You know
My
what I'm saying?
ass. Get the hell out of
Super soulful. On to baseball. We're gonna do a little.
here.
local.
You're an electric slide guy.
Oh
all
no,
the
God,
way.
no! I'd literally rather die. I'd rather my life ended than have to do the electric slide. I used to have to teach it as a job I did as an MC on Spirit Cruise Lines in New York City.
You know what's funny?
I did that job for 3 days, by the way.
I was on vacation last week, but
3 days.
but they started out by going to. I went to I took my daughter to a carnival, and it was cool. It was a lot of fun or whatever. And then all of a sudden they started to do the cha-cha slide. And I'm like, man, I haven't fucking heard that. And
What's the cha-cha slide?
it's like some dance. It's like at a wedding. It's like you ever see that? You probably might have heard it at like sporting events where they go like Charlie Brown, and they just keep doing like all these weird things. But like nobody was doing it. And this one woman, I felt so bad because she was the one in charge of trying to get people to do it.
Stop.
And she was just standing there all by
Just
herself.
stop, guys.
It was a little rough. It was definitely a little rough.
Oh, just stop. Okay, baseball. Let's get to baseball here. We'll start with the Mets.
Oh, look at you wanting to start with the Mets.
Well, I always feel like you should start with the
bad team?
the bad news, or not the bad news, but not the bad team, but the team that everything isn't going okay for at this point team.
So my team.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. You could have just said that and saved yourself the fucking trouble.
Per usual as it is. Listen, the Mets are there. I don't know what you do.
There's nothing you can
There's
do.
nothing you can do. They're not going to make a trade because you're not going to trade it. Who are you going to trade?
But here's
anybody
the thing.
who you could trade is going to help you, so you're not going to trade anybody.
But here's the problem. Any trade you make right now, people are going to want Rosario. And you pretty much made it clear you don't want to trade Rosario.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But it also doesn't help you to trade. You don't need to trade. You need people to get healthy. The problem is that the one guy you need to get healthy, we know isn't coming back for a couple months at least.
That's Syndergaard.
And that's Syndergaard. I mean, Familia's out. That's just bad luck. You know what? Crap happens. You know what I mean? That's just bad luck. And listen, you'll get Cespedes back. The problem is that Cespedes being gone hasn't been the problem. They've been able to still score a ton of runs without Cespedes. Now, he'll make that lineup better, and they will score more runs, and Granderson will sit. But at the same time, it doesn't help their problem. And their biggest problem is going tonight. He is their biggest problem right now. Let's be fair. Zach Wheeler has been, I think, better than we all thought he probably would be at this point.
I think he's been better than
DeGrom's last outing was hopefully him sort of trajectorying up. Now, he hasn't been horrible, but he also hasn't been giving them the good quality 7-8 innings that he needs to give them to give that bullpen a day off so that when Tommy Malone and Josh Smoker and whoever the hell else they're throwing out there that day pitches, they're not dead by that point.
Well, the problem is like when Sunday, I watched Sunday's game for 5 minutes, and I'm like, okay, this one's over. That's the downside to having a guy like Tommy Malone on your rosters. You pretty much know what you're going to get out of him before he even takes the mound.
Right.
He's a mediocre journeyman pitcher. If you get 5 innings and 2 runs out of him, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
But most likely you're going to get a lot of shitty outings. That's what you're going to get. But unfortunately, that's what the Mets have no choice because they just have too many injuries. And what's making it worse is that Robert Gsellman's been terrible. And they've had no choice but to put him in the bullpen because if you put him in the rotation, he gives up the ballpark pretty much.
Right.
So they had no, so their hands were tied. Now, you're hoping that by next week or the week after, Lugo comes back, Matz comes back. But again, I can't get too excited because I just don't know what to expect from either one.
Yeah, especially Matz. I mean, I'm not sure about Lugo's injury history, but I mean, listen, if Matz makes five, here's the thing: if Matz makes 5 quality starts and then goes back on the DL, that's almost like a win at this point for him. And hope that Lugo stays healthy and that Matt Harvey finds it, and that's really the problem right now, right? I mean, listen, the Mets would probably still be around 500, but if Matt Harvey was, I mean, half of what he was 2 years ago before he whatever, they would be closer to 500 than they are.
Here's the thing that bothers me about Matt Harvey. It's just like, and the thing was when that story broke about him missing because of a migraine, I immediately said to myself, there's something we're missing. Something doesn't make any sense.
Stop.
Because, look, if you have a migraine, take some fucking Excedrin, okay? And then just go to the ballpark. You're not pitching that day, so what does it matter?
But also, if you suffer from migraines, you should have medication that your doctor has given you to help you with that.
And then I said, I'm like, there's something missing. There's something that we're not getting yet. There's something that doesn't make sense. Because I've never heard of a pitcher just blowing off a game for a migraine. I mean, they'll try to combat it to the best of their ability. They'll get to the ballpark. And if they still feel they like really shitty at the end of the day, then Terry or whoever will send them home. And just say, okay, go home and rest or go into the clubhouse and rest. I mean, they're not pitching anyway, so what's the matter?
Right.
What's the big deal? Okay? But there was something missing, and I was like, I don't know, something doesn't add up. And then sure as shit, thank God, New York Post, page 6. Harvey's out at 10 Oak with his friends till 5 in the morning, getting hammered, and then gets up and plays golf the next morning. So now we know exactly why he had the migraine, because he had a fucking hangover. And he was basically out till whatever time, and then he woke up probably early he probably got a couple of hours of sleep to go play golf in the morning, because most people only play golf in the morning.
But that because a girl broke up with him.
A supermodel.
So what?
I know. But again,
you're Matt freaking Harvey, okay?
You
are better looking than Derek Jeter, okay? Like, you're going to get other...
But apparently he's not better looking than Julian Edelman.
Well, that's really where it's got to kill the Met Jet fan, right? Like, that's just got to, like, just right in the old cubes right there. Like, just a shot to the nuts.
That's what anybody will say. I don't really give a shit.
No, I know you don't care. You know the fan I'm talking about. Yeah. There is a fan out there who hates her now more. Because not that she broke Matt Harvey's heart.
And his name is Joe Beningo.
It's because she left him for a Patriot.
Yeah. Now, look.
Good times.
Matt, here's the problem. Listen, we've all been dumped in our time, and listen, it's something. Listen, it's not easy to get over right away, and it's unfair to expect. But the fact is, you're
millions of dollars.
But that's the thing, though. You're a professional athlete, and unfortunately, it's magnified 10 times more for you because you're Matt Harvey. So the thing is that you have to have a short memory, especially if you have to pitch every day, because the Mets aren't going to give you a friggin' leave because you broke up with your girlfriend, dumped you. They only give you, if you go on IR, you go on the DL, that's one thing. But they're not going to give you, they're going to expect you to pitch every 5th day, and you have to find a way to make it work. And the thing with Harvey is, again,
he can't, though.
But it's just another problem. It's another situation where he literally, like, maybe embarrasses the organization is a bit extreme, but it's just another fucking thing. It was the last thing. It was the last thing this team needed.
Yeah, but it just shows that the Mets let the inmates run the asylum. Now they suspended him. He missed one start. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? If they really wanted to send a message, they would have done something else. But they could have done something more. This is the second time. That he's just sort of missed something. You know what I mean?
But he can't. The thing is, like, and that's my point. It's like, look, I think the Mets can only do so much. And I know they don't want to piss Harvey off, and I know they want to, they don't need any more fucking drama and all that stuff.
Piss him off. Who cares? He's not good.
Whoa. Relax yourself.
But he's not good.
Look at your fucking panties in a bunch.
They're
Relax.
not. I wouldn't wear those.
Okay.
It'd be too
I'm just saying the point is like, he's pitching like shit, but he's got to figure out a way to get over it. And the thing is, right now, they need him more than ever because Syndergaard is hurt. Three-fifths of your starting rotation is injured, and one guy has been completely crappy. So now you need Harvey more than ever. And unfortunately, he's I don't know if it's a mental thing. I'm not condoning it. But the fact is like right now they fucking need him. And then he just pretty much, and after all that, he claims he called the Mets. The Mets say, no, that's not what happened. And that's where it only, again, for me, it's just like, okay, there's something we're missing. And then sure as shit, here it comes out. And now he has to apologize because he pretty much made an ass of himself by claiming this, and it turned out to be wrong. And he looked like a bigger douchebag the second time around. They need him now more than ever. Unfortunately, there's nothing they can do. They have to weather the storm with him because, like I said, you have DeGrom, you have Harvey, you have Wheeler, and then after that, who knows?
But if it happens again, then I don't want to hear about it because you're then just you're just letting it happen, and you might just spend it for 3 days again for a starting pitcher. It's ridiculous, but
Now I would do it for 3 starts.
Yeah.
Okay, not 3 games.
Yeah.
3 starts.
Yeah.
So in that sense, now that sends a little bit more of a message.
But the problem the Mets have though is that how can you do this with Harvey and not then do something with Syndergaard, who added 20 pounds worth of muscle and didn't tell the Mets, or Cespedes, who is doing all, I mean, apparently he's not playing golf right now, which is a good thing, but kind of just does whatever he wants.
Listen,
these guys do whatever they want.
I'm not going to
and
constantly
it affects how they're playing.
I'm not going to constantly criticize the Mets mainly because I think a lot of teams do this shit. If it breaks, I think like if it happened to a guy like Bryce Harper, I don't think the Nationals are going to go crazy fucking suspending him. If it happens to a stud player on a team, it depends on the team, but I think a lot of teams are going to be like, all right, we'll let it go.
But doesn't it feel like this has been happening to the Mets for like 30 years?
I don't know about 30 years. But
I mean, going back to the 80s Mets, I mean, like, these guys have been a mess for like 30 years.
I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know. I seriously don't know. Listen, I'm not condoning it. I mean, but I think at the same time, I think Harvey just has to fucking wake up and realize that, you need him. He's got to start pitching like the Dark Knight that he. And the thing is, also, I'll say this:
stop calling him that. But
no,
you can stop calling him that. I mean,
well, nobody's called him that in forever.
But they do,
But here's the thing, though. Part of me also thinks because maybe it's just me, but part of me thinks that Matt Harvey's a little bit of an afterthought in New York because DeGrom has pitched better.
Oh,
and
much
so
better.
is Syndergaard.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, Matt Harvey's like the third wheel when he was used to being the top dog.
But if you're that type of person, wouldn't that make you want to be better and not worse? Wouldn't that make you want to make you show up and not show up?
And that's the problem with Harvey, too, is number one, his work ethic, his motivation. He looks overweight. I mean, he doesn't take care of himself.
I can't speak to that because I don't know, but I mean,
listen, right now,
some
here's
of the best
what
pitchers
I
I've
will
ever seen
say.
were fat bastards.
Here's what I will say, though. Yeah, but for him, it's not working.
I mean, maybe.
Okay? But at the same time, what worries me is this is going to become a problem with booze or whatever, and you hope that that's not the case.
I mean, it does. Listen, we've all gotten drunk before and maybe not gone to work. The difference is when I don't go to work, like,
listen, I used to work with a guy very similar to that. He would basically he would go out. He liked his cocktails, so he'd go out. We never hear from him the next day. And when we did, it was always really late in the day.
Yeah, he was hungover.
So that was pretty much it. And a lot of times we kind of look the other way and forget that it happens. But the fact, but again, now I'm not his boss. I can't reprimand him. But, again, it just keeps happening and you keep doing it until you can, you know what you can get away with. And then after that, then you know when to stop. The problem is with Matt Harvey, and like you just hope this doesn't escalate into a bigger issue with alcohol and alcoholism. I'm not saying that's where it is, okay? But you just hope it's not getting there.
I'd be more worried about him on the field than off at this point.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, he's only hurting himself with his future, with his career, and all that stuff.
Your big contract's going to be very little.
Yeah. And
now,
the
it's
thing
still going to be millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
You
Well, teams will always take a chance on it.
It'll still be $5 million a year, whatever. It won't be like, it's not like he's going to be like, Little Sisters of the Poor or something.
No, I don't think it'll be like that.
I mean,
he'll make money.
Been.
Exactly. And that's the point. He'll be the equivalent of like a B-level starter in some ways. Whereas the guys like the Kershaws and maybe the Strasburgs of the world, he won't get that money unless he fucking wakes up and starts pitching better. And I don't know if he's even capable of that right now. The thing is, he comes back, he gets rocked in Milwaukee. Now he's pitching again. He pitched a little bit better when they pitched in was it Arizona?
Yeah.
Did he pitch? He pitched a little bit better, but it wasn't great.
Nah, and the thing is that if he was pitching to a 3 ERA, the Mets are like 2 games under 500.
Yeah. And if he's winning games with them, fine. The thing is, it's all around. It's not, DeGrom has been very shaky, although he pitched much better in that game on Friday against the Angels.
But DeGrom keeps him in the game. That's the difference.
I think
DeGrom might give up 3 runs in 6 innings or 3 runs in 7 innings. Harvey's given up 5 in 1. I mean, you can't do that.
The thing is, too, is, Wheeler's pitched very well.
He's been very good.
I think he's very good. I think one guy
But his innings are running out. I mean,
Yeah.
the time is clicking,
And the thing is, the one guy that's really kind of killed them in many ways, besides the fact of Matson, Lugo, and Syndergaard being hurt, is Gazelman. Because Gazelman last year pitched really well. He came into spring training, pitched really well in spring training, and he's just gotten rocked every start until they finally moved him to the bullpen, where he's now basically a long reliever. And now we're stuck with a guy like throwing Tommy Malone out there to guarantee he's going to get
be
shelled.
Smoker. They just released Malone or sent him back down.
Oh, is that what it
Yeah,
is?
they brought Smoker up, who's now a starter, apparently. So they're going to have him start.
I mean,
Malone went to the bullpen. He's not doing the start next time. And so they're trying that, and that's fine. And listen, you can be excited about Matt's coming back, and that's fine.
Listen,
but,
when Matz comes back, he's going to pitch 5 innings in his first game. So you can't really get too
but it's
excited.
not even that. It's that how long?
Yeah.
How long before the next shoe drops? How long before he feels it in his elbow or his shoulder or his back or his whatever's hurt this time? And you can say that I'm overreacting on that, but that's his trend.
No,
That's
I don't
what
think
he
you're
does.
overreacting, because I think every Met fan is thinking the same thing. I think the fact is that you're not sure. You're going to be nervous every time he takes the mound, just like you're going to be nervous. But also at the same time, I mean, again, I'm not saying that the Mets had to address starting pitching in the offseason, because they were loaded. They were pretty much ready to go in the rotation. It wouldn't have made any sense.
It would have been stupid.
So, but again, you have your aces pretty much is out till August. You have Harvey, who's been ineffective. So it's just kind of all just not. It's all just going bad right now for the Mets, and it's not going to get any better.
And the Mets, listen, they can get healthy in the next 6 games. They got 3 against the Padres, 3 against the Pirates, and then they're home for the Brewers. They need to listen. The Padres are bad. They need to beat the Padres. And you hate to say sweet, but at this point, the Mets have to start thinking that way. They have to get to 500 before they can start thinking about doing anything else. Yeah. Because if they don't get to 500, they're not making the playoff season, even as a wild card. And look, at that point, maybe Syndergaard's back and he's fresh and he, he's lights out.
Now,
anything can happen there, but they got to get there.
Here's the worst part, okay? If the Mets are out of it, they don't exactly have players that are going to net them a huge return. If you think about it, maybe
could
Bruce
get them something. I don't know how much.
But who else? Granderson's been awful this year. You're not going to get anything for Granderson.
You could probably trade Addison Reed to somebody.
Right. I mean, you're not going to get anything for Duda. You're not going to get anything for guys like Reyes or Flores. Maybe you get something for Walker or Cabrera.
Not even there.
See what I mean?
So they don't even have what the Yankees had last year,
Thank
which is,
So right now, the Mets just may have to suck it up and deal with what they have, or just try to get whatever they can.
Or trade whatever you can, get whatever you can get back, and then bring up all the kids and let them play. Let Rosario play, and TJ Rivera, and
I see a lot of arguments.
The first base kid,
Dominic Smith.
Like,
honestly, do I think they should bring up Rosario? Maybe. I mean, I would bring him up. I don't see what the big deal is at this point. He's hitting 350 in Vegas. But again, at the same time, I mean...
Hasn't he had 50 errors or something like that, though?
No.
I heard he had a lot of errors. That was the reason they weren't bringing him up. They're not bringing him up because they don't want to lose the year. It's the same crap as what the Cubs pulled with
Chris Bryant.
With Chris Bryant. That's why they're not bringing him up. The day that thing is gone, the day after, where they can bring him up and not lose the year of eligibility, where the rest of this year won't even count, and he starts fresh next year, he will be up. Guaranteed.
And then on top of that, something we already knew from the very beginning, David Wright has been shut down.
I mean,
again,
just stop, please, David. Please, listen. I'm not. I'm. You know me. I'm not that guy. I'm not. I would never tell anybody to retire. But dude,
he's got to call it.
You can't do it. And I get it. It's got to be the worst feeling in the world, right? You were at the top of your game. You were one of the best third basemen in the whole game, and because of you're fucking back. You can't play anymore. Well, dude, you can't play. You're going to get your money. Take the burden off the Mets. They're still paying you. This affects how they go forward. Take the burden away from them.
But again, though, that's where I get pissed off with a guy like Alderson, because I think he should have saw this coming. I think he should have had a better option. I'm not saying Reyes wasn't expecting Reyes to be this bad hitting-wise. But I just think more of a permanent option would have just made sense.
Between Reyes and Flores, they should have been able to cover third base just fine.
And neither one is hitting that well.
Right, and that's the thing. You could have played Reyes against lefties.
Yeah, it's great to have Reyes at defense.
Reyes against righties and Flores against lefties, and you go about your day.
And then again, it's just like you roll the dice on Lucas Duda, hurts his back, misses a month. I know he's back now. Darno gets hurt and he's back, but he's not even the starting catcher because Rivera's been playing a lot better. And then the guy that they were like trying to trade, thank God they didn't trade him because he's wound up being a better offensive player. He's one of the better offensive players they have.
What would the Mets record be without Jay Bruce?
The only saving grace of the whole thing is, Conforto's playing every day and Conforto's playing really well.
He's been very good.
So
been very good. On to the first place.
Oh, fuck you.
New York Yankees.
By a game.
With a game and a half, sir. Two games in the loss. I thank you. Listen. More things are going right than are going wrong, but a lot of stuff is going wrong. So they're masking a lot of. Oh yeah, dude. The starting pitching has been.
That's true. Tanaka's been pretty
mediocre at best. But the thing is like even though that's only one of the three aspects of baseball, basically, it's such a huge part. Yes, but at a certain point,
it's going to run out.
You're going to not be able to score 6 runs a game. You're going to go for 2 weeks where you're not going to score 6 runs a game. It's hard to do that on the regular basis.
Of course it is.
And teams have done it before, and I'm not saying that, but they need Tanaka to get better. They just need him to get better. And I don't know what the hell is wrong. If he's hurt, then put him on the DL. If he's not hurt, then maybe skip him a start and give him an extra, extra day.
You don't think it's anything to do with the UCL, right?
I don't know because it's low. Maybe I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I would imagine if he felt pain in his elbow, knowing what he knows about his elbow, that he would say something and get it fixed. But I mean, it could just be somebody said that he's tipping his pitches, but that doesn't change the fact that he can't throw his fastball for a strike. It's unbelievable. I mean, a guy who has, like, let's be fair. Tanaka is one of those guys that is pinpoint with his control. He knows exactly where the ball's going at any given moment, right? You've seen enough of him pitching to say he's that kind of guy. It's not working right now. And CeCe is, hit or miss. He's had a couple good starts in a row, but that doesn't mean the next one he's not going to give up 10 hits and 5 runs.
And Montgomery looks a bit hittable these days.
The thing is, Montgomery, he should be in AAA right now. I mean, let's be fair. He pitched like 5 games in AAA last year, so he's learning on the job, and he has his good games and he has his bad games. The thing I like about Montgomery is that he hasn't, like his last start, he gave up 5 runs, but it was in like 5 2/3 innings, and he kept him in it until the 5th inning, and it just sort of blew up on him. And he gave up a home run to Moustakas. I mean, sometimes you're going to do that. It's going to happen. But for the most part, but here's the thing. Montgomery's supposed to be your 5th starter. And as a 5th starter, he's been pretty good.
Pineda's been your most consistent pitcher.
And that's the problem, right? And that's the thing. So Pineda's been our most consistent pitcher. Severino's been really good. He had a couple of little road bumps, but they weren't. The worst one was the first game of the doubleheader where he just completely crapped the bed. But I'm starting to think more and more as I watch the Yankees and the Yankees starting pitching, and the best starts that I've seen from them all year were on an extra day's rest. Those 2 starts in Boston, I went back-to-back with Tanaka and Severino. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's time, man. You have an old pitcher in CeCe who an extra day could only help. Right?
You mean going to a 6-man?
Yeah, you have Tanaka, a guy. I mean, does it ultimately matter if, 2 of those days a week you're going to use your bullpen for 7 innings anyway? You know what I mean? Like, there's enough. Chad Green could be your 6th starter at this point.
See, but I'll give you a perfect example, like, just to go back to the Mets for a minute, because the bullpen has been completely overworked, even though they've been very ineffective. And the fact is that game Sunday bothered me more because Malone was throwing batting practice to begin with, but it was like, man, if he could have just given them like 5 to 6 innings, it could have given a lot of those arms a break.
But that's what I'm talking about too with a 6-man rotation. So now you have guys who, when they're on a 5-man rotation, they throw 100 pitches and they're out. Yeah. Well, if they're on a 6-man rotation, can they throw 115, 120? They're getting the extra day. So does that mean I can leave them out there? I can then maybe my bullpen can maybe get more of a break, and we can have guys go longer in games, because a lot of times Yankee pitchers get pulled but giving up 1 run in the 6th inning because they're at 98 pitches or whatever it is. So if they went on to a 6-man rotation, would they be able to go that extra inning? Would they be able to go to 7 innings instead of 6? Mm-hmm. And that over the long run is going to help your bullpen immensely. Yeah. Because then you can rotate guys. You can give guys 2 days off in a row. You can do that sort of thing. I think the Yankees are they're not getting close. I think here's what I think. If Chance Adams, who's in AAA right now, just got promoted, along with Gleyber Torres, if Chance Adams pitches like he did in AA, which was to like a 1 ERA over like 18 starts, if he pitches like that, there's a good chance if there's no injuries that they just do that.
Now, here's my question, because I was thinking about this too. Let's give him the month of June.
Okay.
And we're going into July.
Yes.
And as we get closer to the trade deadline, the Yankees are still a first-place team, even though they're probably, let's say they're the same, a game and a half ahead of Baltimore. If Boston doesn't try to make a little bit of a run or whatever, are the Yankees buyers at the deadline for a starting
Not
pitcher?
on the scale that you're thinking.
I'm not talking about an ace.
No, they will not trade Gleyber Torres. They will not trade Sheffield. They won't trade the other kid, Frazier. They won't trade any of those guys.
Sure?
Yeah. Yes, because why? I mean, look.
Listen, the team has outside of them winning the World Series in 2009, right? That was the last time they won the World Series. And they've been pretty much a wild card team, but always been a first round eliminated wild card.
Yeah.
You know, the last time was 2 years ago when they got eliminated by the Astros in the wild card playoff. Does Cashman need to prove a point to get them back into the playoffs?
No, I think he's already done it, to be honest with you. This team is so far like people were talking about this as being the Yankees 2018, 2019. Look out for the Yankees of 2018, 2019, not 2017. A lot of people picked the Yankees to finish last. Fangraphs, I think, had the Yankees finishing last. So they're ahead of schedule, and I think if they need an arm, I think they're going to let the kids try first.
Okay.
And then because I would rather them keep the guys, have the Yankees fall out of it this year, right? Mm-hmm. Those guys get the experience that they're getting, and then if you need an extra piece, maybe you go after something in the offseason or something like that. But mostly, I'd rather be good for 10 years than for 5 and trade a bunch of guys away for a starting pitcher.
Okay.
Who I don't even know if can come in and save the day either. Let's be fair. You're not getting Dallas Keuchel. You're not getting Clayton Kershaw. I mean, who are you going to get at this point?
Well, I'm starting to think of who might be available from bad teams. Okay, now obviously, look.
Well, they were talking about Quintana, but the White Sox aren't horrible. I mean, they're not, I know they're in fourth place, but they're only 4 games out of first.
Take a look right now. Look at the team. Now, obviously, you're not going to trade within your division, so count out everybody in the AL East. In the Central, your 2 worst teams are Kansas City and the White Sox. Kansas City really doesn't have anybody in the rotation that's going to net them a big-time prospect obviously like a Torres or Frazier or Sheffield. The White Sox have Quintana. Other than that, I don't really know. I think it's just going to be a whole bunch of younger guys.
But he's on a good contract for a couple more years, and they're only 4 games out, and they have a lot of young players.
I'm going to throw a name out there. You tell me what you think.
Okay.
Sonny Gray.
What am I giving up for him?
Well, let's see what Sonny Gray's stats are right now. I'm not saying you're not going to give up Torres for him, but
there we go. Let's go to Baseball Reference.
The Mariners, who are in last place, who just continue to underachieve. Holy crap. I mean, outside of Felix, they don't really have much either in the rotation. You look at a team like the Giants. Obviously, the Giants aren't going to trade Madison Bumgarner, but
Sonny Gray this year is 1-1 with a 3.97. He's got 4 games started, 22 innings pitched. He's got 21 hits, 13 runs, 10 earned, 4 homers, 7 walks, 17 strikeouts.
All right, next. Let's see who else.
I mean, again, I'll take Sonny Gray, but you're getting like.
What about? Okay, how about here's another one.
Nobody.
No, I'm talking.
I know.
How about Garrett Cole? The Pirates.
But that's the thing is, if you want Garrett Cole,
listen, I'm going to be very honest. Although I'm not sure what the Yankees would do in that situation, because I think right now they're kind of playing with house money to an extent, because you're in July, you can be a buyer, but you already know you don't want to give up a lot of these guys too. So I'm not saying teams are going to come in and try to fleece the Yankees, because I know Cashman won't let that happen.
Listen, Garrett Cole's his year's weird. He's 2-5, but he's only pitched with 3.36 ERA. So if he's on the Yankees, he's probably 5-2.
Okay,
right, with the offense. He's got 10 games started, 61 innings, 56 hits, 25 runs,
and
23 earned, 9 homers.
I think he's
13
is he an unrestricted free agent after this year, or maybe one more year.
What does it say here? Drafted. Why doesn't it say? It always says.
So basically, in that sense, so you think the Yankees could be buyers, but they're not going to make like a blockbuster. They're going to probably just get somebody to maybe round out the rotation.
No, yeah, they're not arbitration eligible 2018, free agent 2020. So
Okay,
if you're
so
the
he's got-
Pirates, you're going to want a freaking king's ransom for him. You have him under control for 2 more years.
I'm only asking
No,
because
I get
again,
it.
right now, a lot of people, obviously, the Yankees have exceeded expectations this early in the season. And then it becomes an interesting situation where are you going to be a buyer, and what do you want to give up? Or are you really going to go for it? Or are you going to just stick with what you have and just keep building on it for the next year? And the
I
year
would
after that?
much rather them give Chance Adams or Chad Green or somebody like that, Dietrich Enns, somebody of that ilk, a chance if somebody were to get injured than them, or risk just sending a bunch of prospects away for a pitcher.
Well, the Yankees should be able to sweep both series this week against Kansas City and Oakland.
Stop. It's a 4-game series. You know how hard it is to sweep 4-game series?
That doesn't mean anything.
Also, Danny
At
Duffy's
home,
going tonight. He's a decent pitcher.
at home, it's a launching pad.
Stop.
Okay.
Just stop. You can try your nonsense.
I'm not trying my
Your
nonsense.
reverse psychology nonsense.
What
on
are
the
you
sports
talking about?
gods. Saying that because you think if you say that, then the Yankees will lose the next 3 games.
No.
And you'll be able to
Not at all.
dance around naked with a bowl of Jello, going crazy in your house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that would be a fucking scary sight, but that's besides the point.
Okay, real quick, let's do a couple of things. Then we're going to get to do a little NFL, and then we
Oh,
got
wait.
closing time.
We got to do a little moratorium on the Rangers.
We will. Don't
It
worry.
worked
about
again.
Stop. No,
it
it didn't.
worked again.
It didn't. You did nothing. You
Yes,
know
I
that,
did.
right? No, you didn't. Stop.
Yes, I did.
Stop. Their inability to play defense against a team that had no offense was what lost them that series.
And of course, because the big time scorers, the Chris Kreiders of the world, only showed up in the third period of game 6.
There we go. We just talked NHL. All right, excellent.
No, we'll get into
I'm not
it.
giving you the mic because you're going to just use it to gloat instead of talk about things in a way
That's
that
not
is
true.
professional, as we always are here on Polar Opposites.
That's not
You're
true.
just going to sit there and be like, "Oh, the Rangers suck." Meanwhile, did your
Whoa,
team
whoa,
even make
whoa,
the
whoa.
playoffs?
Whoa. I didn't say
Did
the
the
Rangers
Islanders
suck.
make the
Did I
playoffs?
not predict the Rangers would win the cup?
Stop. You only did that because you're
No,
a
I
douche.
didn't.
Because you're
I
a
did
giant
not.
bag of dicks
No, I
who is
didn't.
trying to friggin'
I
jinx
really
the
believe-
Rangers.
I
Stop
really-
it. There is no way. There is no way you will ever get me to believe. It is fake news. Just like Donald Trump will never believe anything
I really
MSNBC said. I will never believe that you did not do that with the intention of jinxing the Rangers.
No, I really believe
Stop.
that they were going to win this game.
Stop.
It's totally.
It's
I don't think you give me enough credit.
no, I think that you don't give me enough credit.
I don't think you
that
give me-
think
you
that
don't
I
give me
would
any
believe
fucking
you.
credit.
Are you kidding me over here? You think that I think that you don't think you were trying to jinx him? You're killing me right now. It's so sad that you were trying to jinx him. Killing me. Jinx. That's all you're trying to do. Okay, real quick, because we got a couple minutes, and then we're going to do a little football. We're going to do a little post-draft moratorium. We already talked about the other stupid rule changes. We're going to do the rest in closing time, and we just talked Rangers, so that's a good job by us.
I do have one other thing for you to ask
Yeah.
you before closing. No, we'll wait.
Okay.
I'll save
Okay. So we're 40 games in.
Look at the Minnesota Twins in first place. In
Right.
the Central.
So okay. So we have some random crap happening. Our last show was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we said that all the people that were in first place at that point seemed kind of crazy, except for like a couple teams, like the Nationals and Houston, that sort of thing. And all those same teams are still in first place.
Yeah, which is especially the Twins.
Which is amazing. So you have the Twins, Yankees are still in first place, right? Houston's in first place. Texas come back after a terrible start. They won like 15 games in a row. It's been nuts. Seattle, again, everyone picks fucking Seattle every year. And every year, what does Seattle they do? They take a giant dump on the bed, and there you go.
But that's the thing, man. I can't figure out why that team is so. They're such underachievers.
You think Robinson Cano regrets going after the extra money?
No, I really don't.
Okay. I would.
I really don't. I don't. I think he wanted it from the get-go. He wanted to get
Amen.
paid, and he took the money.
Enjoy it. I hope you're enjoying being perennial losers out there as the Yankees rebuild. You could have been the centerpiece of this rebuild, by the way.
I'm not gonna go that far.
But he
I
could have
don't
been
know
the
why.
guy, right?
No, I don't know.
He could have been the third place hitter, yanking home runs in the new Yankee Stadium,
I don't know.
playing defense at second,
No.
tearing it up.
Who's playing second right now? Castro.
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
He's been better than Cano.
And the Yankees got him for literally nothing.
They got Adam Warren back.
Because they got him for literally nothing.
Well, then
Do
again,
you realize that they got? Do you
listen,
realize?
with all due respect, at the end of the day, that trade worked out fine for the Cubs because they won the World Series.
Absolutely fantastic.
they
for
won
them.
the World-
But think about it this way: the Yankees got Starlin Castro, Didi Gregorius for John Ryan Murphy and some other guy. Can't remember his name.
And no one else does either.
And no one else does either.
But again,
and Aaron Hicks. They got those three
well,
players.
Seattle's one of those teams. I mean, they're always predicted to because of King Felix and with Cano and Nelson Cruz and whatever. And then they make the trade in the offseason for Gene Segura where they
but
traded
nobody
Taijuan
else
Walker.
hits on that team.
But
That's the problem.
The
They
team
have two guys that hit.
They've constantly underachieved, and they still play in a tough division, man. Houston and Texas are really good, and the Angels have been a little bit better than we thought this year.
When you have two guys that hit but nobody else hits, it doesn't matter how much those two guys hit. Now, we go to the National League, where Washington, still no shock that they're in first place. I'm still a little surprised that Atlanta's in second place. I think that's mostly just because the Mets have been bad. But
well, I think that's it. But also, a lot of things have, a lot of the moves Atlanta made in the offseason have worked out. Like Brandon Phillips has been really good.
They did. The Freddie Freeman thing kills him, though.
It does. Oh, of course, it's going to kill them. I think it's going to ultimately swallow them up.
Yeah.
But Kemp has been really good. Yeah. Phillips has been really good. Markakis has been fine.
Yeah.
Has been good. And even the catcher, Tyler Flowers, has been hitting over 300. So
Yeah.
they're getting hitting. The pitching leaves a lot to be desired after Julio Teheran, though, because Colon hasn't really been that effective, and neither is Dickey. So outside of that, and then the other two guys are young guys who are also getting kind of tagged quite a bit this year. So, but look, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year anyway for the Braves.
What wasn't supposed to be happening was Miami sucked this bad. We always knew that they wouldn't be great, but for them to be 15 and 28 at this point is crazy.
Look, at this point,
crazy.
Break
it up.
Listen, we said it during the preview. This team has been together for so long, and they've just been mediocre. I mean, I don't know what else
And they can't trade Stanton. And, it's funny. People compare Stanton and Judge a lot, and they should because they're both giant human beings who play baseball. But the difference is right now, and of course I say right now because everything changes all the time in baseball. But right now, Judge is a better hitter than Mike Stanton. He hits for more of an average.
Giancarlo Stanton.
Whatever. It's Mike Stanton.
It's Giancarlo
No, it's
Stanton.
not. Your name is Mike. He came
It's
up as Mike.
Giancarlo.
I can't. Just like I'm not calling stadiums new things. Your name is Mike. Have a good day.
It's Giancarlo.
So he's taking walks. He's not swinging at bad pitches. He's not striking out a whole bunch. And he's hitting more. He's not just hitting home runs, even though he's hitting home runs. The thing is, for them, that is an untradeable contract.
No.
Untradeable. He's making so much money.
He signed that contract for the sole purpose of finishing his career in Miami.
Which is great, but now you need to think about trading Yelich and trading some of the other guys because you can get a lot for them in return if you do it right, of course.
I will never say that a contract is untradeable because Giancarlo Stanton is still one of the best hitters in the league.
Mike Stanton.
It's Giancarlo Stanton, okay? And you're being a bag of dicks right now, okay?
Mike Stanton.
So the fact is like I think his contract, I know it's an albatross, but I think if a team really wants him, I think they'll take it. If they don't have to give up a lot in return.
You know where I could see him going?
Dodgers.
No.
Really?
I could see him going to like the Detroit Tigers. They seem like a team that would do that.
I could see it.
Like he can play, he could DH most of the time. You know what I mean?
I could definitely see
Something like that. Some weird team like that. Because I don't think the Yankees, the Red Sox, even the Dodgers, where would you put them? I mean,
well, the thing is, the Dodgers, here's the thing about the Dodgers. They keep spending money, but they're not making money. They're losing money. And a lot of those guys are going to have to be released
But they do have a lot of young players. This kid, Cody Bellinger, comes up. He tears it up. Kyle Seager's been fantastic for them. Jock Peters has come back to earth. Okay, finally, because Colorado is still winning. Like 3 weeks ago, we said Colorado and Arizona. We'll see how they are in a couple weeks. Well, guess what? They're still right there. It is crazy and you want to know what the craziest thing is? Is the one team that has surprised me the most over the past 3 weeks is the freaking Cardinals, man. They looked so bad when they played the Yankees in Yankee Stadium a couple weeks ago.
You can't sleep on the Cardinals.
I know you can't, dude, but sometimes when you watch a team play, Craig, when you watch them play, they made fielding errors, mental mistakes. They were striking out all over the place. Yadier Molina couldn't catch balls in the dirt. It was painful to watch. And I'm not even a fan of the Cardinals, but that's how bad they were. It was just awful. And man, they turned it around. They have a better record than the Cubs.
Well, the Cubs I can understand because I'm not going to blame it on the fact that they won the World Series, and that letdown is a real thing, I think, for a lot of the teams. But the other thing I'm kind of surprised about is Milwaukee is in first place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's without Ryan Braun, who's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Thames has been better, has been amazing for them. And the thing is, it's not like they're sporting what's his name in or whatever when it had Sabathia in it and in Milwaukee. I mean,
Right.
it's basically like Matt Garza, Kyle Davies, and like a few other guys. So their rotation is not really anything special, but it's getting the job done, and their hitting is getting the job done. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty surprising. Cincinnati kind of fell from grace pretty quickly. The Pirates are dead last. McCutcheon's been pretty brutal this year, which is a little bit of a surprise. And then again in the West, I mean, Colorado, we talked about it during our preview. They were going to be a dangerous team. We didn't think they were going to be a first-place team.
Well,
But
if they ever got pitching.
Their hitting has been amazing. And the same thing with a team like Arizona. And that's with I think Pollock is hurt again.
Yeah.
But they're getting hitting from Tomas, from Goldschmidt.
And Greinke's been good.
Yeah, and Greinke's been pretty good. And Robbie Ray had a solid outing the other day for them. This is definitely a surprise.
This is the team that if I'm in that division scares the living bejesus out of me, and that's the San Francisco Giants.
Why?
Because they're hanging around, right? They're 6.5 out, and I know that they're 9 out. Sorry, they're 9 and 6.5 out in the wild card. And I'm not saying they're going to catch the division, but can't you just see like when Bumgarner gets back, they go on like a 10-12 game win streak and sort of get back into the race. And I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but it just seems like they're just building towards it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
just saying.
this is where it gets interesting because it's still going to be a lot because the Giants will have to play the Dodgers,
Sure.
some games, and the Diamondbacks and the Rockies.
But that's why they could
You
also
kind
get
of
back
wonder
into
if
it.
you kind of
too.
wonder if the Rockies are going to come down to earth a little bit because the pitching is not great. But Bud Black's done a pretty good job in his first year, and like I said, when you have all those hitters, maybe that's all you need sometimes. I mean, you'll win games, 10-8 or 11, whatever. And what's his name? Greg Holland, the closer, has been really good.
Yes.
On that 1-year agreement.
Okay. NFL real quick. We're going to do some draft stuff. We already talked about the how the NFL is now ruined by the fact that guys can have fun and celebrate again. It's so funny. Like in Major League Baseball, people are like, oh, let them flip the bat and let them do all sorts of stuff. But when it comes to the NFL, for some reason, you can't dance in the end zone. Again.
And man, Jose Bautista did it again, didn't he?
What an ass. I mean, it is unbelievable. Like, all I see when he comes up to the plate is a fucking fat plumber bending over. That's all I see.
And you did something
what a-
bad when Kurt Suzuki has words with you.
Yeah. And I think he realized it. You saw him, like, pat his chest like it's like my bad sort of thing.
I don't even know if he did it that way. I think he's really a prick, and then he just likes to
He's
fucking
just a knob goblin.
Yeah, I think he just is the kind of guy that's like, yeah, well, I don't care. My team sucks. Fuck you. I'm going to do it.
We got about 8 minutes to do the NFL draft, so I'm just going to do this. Favorite pick?
Outside of Jamal Adams,
Yeah, leave the first round out of it.
Chad Hansen, the 4th rounder from Cal, the
Okay.
wide receiver.
Least favorite pick?
Wow. I'm not going to count the 6th rounders. I think it's just, to me, it doesn't make sense. I am okay with Marcus May as the 2nd round pick. What bothers me is they could have had Dalvin Cook. So I'll say Marcus May, mainly because they could have had Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook would have been really good for the backfield and for whoever quarterbacks the team.
Okay, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Were you happy with your number 1 pick?
Absolutely. Even though I wasn't really crazy about defense,
Right.
to have a guy like him fall to us at 6, I think was huge. And I can easily thank the Chicago Bears for that,
Okay.
for Mitch Trubisky.
It's just, I mean, what the fuck
And
happened?
I'll tell you something else.
What happened
Here's
there,
the thing.
dude? What
As
happened?
As soon as they drafted Trubisky, I said there was no way the Browns were trading up. Because I think the Browns were only trading up for Trubisky. They weren't
Yeah.
trading up for anybody
But
else.
man, they traded so much to move up a spot.
Because they were fucking stupid. And then but on top of that, though, it's like, what does that say to Glennon, who you just signed?
They don't care, dude. That dude. Talk about that dude. He comes in. He has a,
Because they probably gave him the spiel, like, look, we want you to be the starting quarterback this year. And he was like, okay, I'll sign.
Yeah.
Because, look, the Jets weren't really that interested in him. And I don't know if anybody else was really seriously interested in him. But they were probably like, okay, we'll sign him. And then he goes into the training camp or whatever before the draft thing. Okay, I'm the number 1 guy. And what is he thinking when he sits there and he sees them trade up for Trubisky?
Hey, man.
1 spot.
That's the way the NFL works, right?
Now, I'm going to be just an overall thing. I was actually a really big fan of the Jets draft. I really like what they did.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
They did. Yeah.
I liked the 2 receivers in the 3rd and 4th round, or Darius Stewart and Chad Hansen. Chad Hansen reminds me a bit of like an Edelman.
Right.
Maybe a little taller, a little bigger. And our Darius Stewart's a really physical receiver from Alabama. I really like that. I think, a lot of people criticize them for taking 2 safeties in the first 2 picks. But here's the bottom line.
You're
the
set.
secondary was awful last year.
You're also set now.
Yeah, the secondary was torched. And the thing is, what I like that it did is it may have actually lit a fire under Calvin Pryor this year. Because he's been shitty. He's been an awful pick since they drafted him. So maybe this lights a fire under him. Personally, I don't think he even starts this year. I think it's going to be Adams and May starting week 1. Now, the only thing I didn't like. Well, one thing I did like. Number 1, they didn't draft a quarterback. Mainly because I want to see what they have with Petty and Hackenberg.
Well, sure, why wouldn't you?
And on top of that, if they both suck, then next year you can draft one of the kids, the 3 kids that'll probably be in the draft. And in many ways, the Browns did him a favor by drafting Deshaun Kaiser, which means they might be least likely to draft a quarterback next year in the 2018 draft. The one thing I didn't like was I really wish they would have invested in maybe an offensive lineman or 2.
Okay.
Instead, at some point, I don't know where that was going to be, but I think just having an additional depth on the offensive line would have been good. I'm okay with the cornerbacks in the 6th round. And, to be honest, I like some of these undrafted free agents. I've been reading a lot about them, and I have a couple of friends on the West Coast who, one guy I know went to Washington State. One of the guys they signed is this wide receiver, Gabe Marks, who's really good. He catches pretty much everything. So I think it's only going to add more depth to the position. And the thing is, a guy like, for example, I'll use Robbie Anderson as a perfect example. He's not a lock to make the team because he was okay. He wasn't great. But then the fucking guy gets arrested for hitting a cop in Miami. So now if these 3 guys come in and they just start tearing it up and Robbie Anderson has a crappy preseason, just like that, he could be cut. So, that's kind of the beauty of this thing. And I kind of like the fact that a lot of young guys are coming into the team this year to basically fight it out and duke it out for spots on the team. I think that's going to be really good. So overall, I really liked the draft. Oh, I was really, really, really happy. I actually thought they were going to draft O.J. Howard. And it was funny because at one point I thought O.J. Howard was going to the Giants before the Bucs drafted him. But overall, I was really pleased with the draft. I really like a lot of the picks. The only thing I would have liked to have seen was I would have rather just had Dalvin Cook in the 2nd round over Marcus May.
Okay.
Now you do the G-men.
2nd round pick. Defensive tackle out of Alabama. You just he slots right in, replaces Hankins, the guy you lost.
No, it's true.
Put him right next to Snacks. There you go. Listen, nobody knows. Nobody knows. I like the 1st round pick. The Giants don't trade up. They don't. They don't do it. They never have. They've done it like twice. One was to get Eli Manning, okay?
They traded up last year to get 2 years ago to get Collins, right?
Yeah, but that was in the 2nd round. They don't trade up in the 1st round, okay? They were never going to trade up to get the tight end, O.J. Howard. They weren't. They like this kid a lot. He's got amazing speed. He's faster. He's Jordan Reed. You don't think Jordan Reed will help the offense? Let me talk. And people, what about offensive line? Yes, but there was nobody that anybody liked in this class. Nobody anybody liked. So here's what I'm going to tell you now that the Giants are trying to do. They're going by the Golden State Warrior philosophy, right? Who are you going to cover? You going to cover Odell? You going to cover Brandon Marshall? You going to cover Sterling Shepard? Or are you going to cover Evan Ingram? How many times? You're not going to be able to blitz because all those guys are going to be single covered. So they're helping their offensive line by having so many weapons on the field that you can't afford to single cover all of them, in which case you can't really blitz a lot of the time because guys are just going to be wide the fuck open.
Yeah.
So, listen, I don't know enough about the quarterback to talk. I don't know enough.
Listen, I think Davis Webb is fine. I think they were hoping that Nassib would just develop into...
if Hassib sits a couple more years, he can be almost 30. He's got drafted 5 years ago.
How old is Eli right now?
He's 36, 37.
Eli's in the league at least 2 or 3 more years, right?
And so this kid, he's never played under center, so you give him 2 full years to learn it. He sits behind Eli, he watches, and then the Giants do their thing. They draft an offensive lineman late. They draft a running back who they like. Now, the thing about the running back, he's not fast. He's just a load, apparently. So, maybe he's a guy who can finally get us first down on 3rd and 1. You know what I mean? Maybe he can, and he'll be a nice compliment to Perkins, who is a scat back sort of guy.
Yeah. Do you want to comment on Sheldon Richardson?
Sheldon Richardson's an idiot, okay? If you think, I'm not saying Brandon Marshall isn't the problem or wasn't the problem for the Jets.
He wasn't the problem,
But let me just say this, Sheldon. Maybe you are the problem. Maybe you getting into trouble all the time and being a jackass is the problem, okay? Instead of blaming it on everybody else. You were an absolute bust last year. Brandon Marshall at least put up put up stats. What the hell did you do? How many games did you just flat disappear from last year? You're telling me that a wide receiver on the offense affected you so much in the locker room that you just flat disappeared for, 12 games?
Listen, that's one of the things I used to kill Richardson on during the season last year was that he just had an attitude problem, and he was a real sore loser. He's a big fucking baby during post-game press conferences. And others, Brandon Marshall is not the problem. Brandon Marshall was not the problem. I mean, he didn't have a great season for the Jets last year, and that was mostly because Ryan Fitzpatrick was so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, and and he just really, I mean, I won't even say regress because he's been in the league for 100 years. But the fact is that it's really unfair to label Marshall the problem when there was pretty much a lot of problems on that team. With Revis not playing, Revis looked like he put little to no effort on the field. Richardson not really putting much effort and then bitching and complaining after games. Wilkerson being ineffective, although I'm more inclined to give Wilkerson a mulligan because coming back from a broken fibula. But, I mean, outside of that, there was a lot of problems. It wasn't just Brandon Marshall, and it's really unfair to peg him as the problem.
That's what they do.
But again, at the end of the day, I thought the Giants had a good draft. I think they drafted Ingram there because I didn't think they were going to get him in the second round anyway, and I think they needed a tight end. We talked about that a bunch of times.
Yeah. They also got Rhett Ellison, who's a blocking tight end, so you can put him in and have them both in. You could put Ingram in the slot. You can do all sorts of stuff, and they're going to rotate guys in and out. The only two guys who are going to be on the only guy who's going to be on the field all the time is Odell. Yeah. That's it. Everyone else is not going to be on the field all the time, and they're going to go with matchups. If they see that a linebacker's covering the slot, they're going to put Ingram there. And he's going to torch that guy right up the seam. He's just going to run right by him because the guy was faster than like 70% of the wide receivers at the combine.
See, but part of me thinks like listen, their offense is stacked, but I get this like weird feeling that like you might get an injury here and there that might kind of bring it down.
There's going to be injuries, and you're going to come back to the pack, but they still have enough of those guys that if one gets injured, it's not catastrophic.
This is the Polar Opposites podcast. Check us out, as always, at polaropposites.podbean.com, as well as iTunes, as well as Spreaker.com. And follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. Maddie, before we begin closing time, would you like to comment
we don't have enough time.
On the possibility of Kristaps Porzingis leaving the Knicks?
I mean, he can't unless the Knicks trade him. And if the Knicks trade him, I want 2 lottery picks, whether it be a lottery pick this year and your pick in the lottery next year, not protected. You don't get top 3.
Do you think he's unhappy?
I do think he's unhappy, but I think they're all unhappy because they're playing an antiquated fucking system that nobody plays anymore and nobody wants to play. And we have a guy choosing our people for the next 2 years, and then once he leaves, they're going to rid themselves of the triangle. So everybody brings in is going to be obsolete. It doesn't make any sense. The Knicks are nowhere, literally nowhere. I would rather be the Nets right now, and the Nets don't even have a first-round pick next year. I would rather be the Nets.
They have 2.
They don't. No, they don't.
Next year? What do you mean, 2018 or this year?
Next year. Don't the Celtics have their pick?
The Celtics have their pick, but I think the Nets will wind up with a pick next year.
Okay, but they don't have their pick again.
We've been over this.
Right, but I'm saying I would rather be the Nets, not having a first-round pick right now next year, having lost the first pick this year and picking like 29th or whatever it is. I would rather be them.
22nd and 27th.
I would rather be them than the Knicks.
Okay.
Because the Knicks have no direction. And that's it.
Is it a rebuild this year?
For who?
For the Knicks?
No, they're going to try and draft somebody. They're going to, I guarantee it, that French point guard who can play the triangle. You fucking watch. It's going to be, Le Petit point guard and for the Knicks. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Let's do it.
I guess we pretty much hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
So let's do a closing time. It's all right as long as I hear Hacksaw in one ear. It doesn't matter.
I don't know what's happening right now.
We're not CBS Sports Radio or WFAN. We don't have the luxury of having a huge board that takes up the room. This is it's a little bullshit board that sparks out from time to time.
Stop! It does nothing of the sort.
This
isn't the board though. This is something on the computer.
You have the fire extinguisher ready just in case.
This is from the computer. This is not from the board.
You have the fire extinguisher ready just in case.
This is from the computer, not the board.
I know. So you put the fucking fire on.
Oh my God! Stop! Just go on.
Closing time, as always, rounds out our show. 8 topics, anything goes. All opinions vary. All opinions are legal. And in Maddie's case, all opinions don't matter.
They don't.
Maddie, are you ready?
Oh!
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You got some sand in
Yeah.
Europe at JJ
Well,
tonight.
listen, you're going to go after my equipment here. Where's your equipment?
The fucking fire extinguisher's
Nowhere.
right here.
Oh, wait, stop your
Okay.
nonsense.
Here we go. Number one, Colin Kaepernick is still a free agent, and there have been reports the Seahawks could sign him to be Russell Wilson's backup. While no deal is official yet, there's a little bit of a push in Seattle to get Kaepernick signed. Defensive end Michael Bennett said Seattle would be, quote, the perfect landing spot for the free agent quarterback. And now Seattle City Council member Kashama Sawant has written a letter to the team urging them to sign Kaepernick. Is Colin Kaepernick being blackballed out of the NFL for his beliefs?
Oh, God, this is a tough one because I don't think – look, I think here's the problem. I think for 75% of the league, Colin Kaepernick had no place whether he kneeled during the national anthem or not. And it has nothing to do with that, but just because they have quarterbacks and they don't need him. I think the problem comes in when you see, like, Josh McCown getting jobs and Blaine Gabbert getting jobs, where Colin Kaepernick is better than those guys. And if you're trying to win football games, he should be your quarterback over those guys. But he's not. And we know why he's not with the Jets, because who's the Jets owner? One of the biggest donors and bundlers for Trump during the last election.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that, though. I think that if he had signed with the Jets would have got killed for signing Kaepernick. And I don't think it has anything to do with Woody
I don't
Johnson.
think they would have.
I think they would have 100%.
Well,
it would have been like he's the wrong guy for the team. I already know exactly what had been written the next day by your boy Manish Mehta. Okay? You know I'm right. Okay? Look, it's twofold. Do I think I don't want to use the term blackball. Okay? I think it's twofold. I think the beliefs are part of it, but I also think that Kaepernick is not that great of a quarterback. Remember, he's a one-trick pony in many ways, doing, he's a read option quarterback. He cannot run a pro-style offense. Okay? Now, listen, I don't have a problem. If they signed Kaepernick, I'd be okay with it. I mean, I wouldn't love it, but then again, I mean, I guess I'd probably react the same way if they sign him or Josh McCown. It wouldn't matter to me because the Jets are going to be a shitty team anyway this year. But the fact is that I think it's a little bit of both, and I think if a team really wanted to sign Colin Kaepernick, they would have done it by now. Maybe the Seahawks bring him in, but again, I say this. The Seahawks would have done it by now if they really wanted him, and I don't think they really want him.
Which doesn't make any sense to me because who would be the perfect guy to come in if Russell Wilson actually gets hurt?
And they play in the West, so he knows the teams. He knows the Cardinals, knows the Rams. He knows how they run, man. And he even knows the Niners. So in some sense, I mean, yeah, for the Seattle, it would make perfect sense. But it has to make perfect sense, and I think like for a team like the Jets, I don't know if it makes sense for them.
No, I'm not saying it does make sense for them. I'm just saying he was never going to the Jets. Even if the Jets were on the cusp and needed a quarterback badly, it would never have been. They would have signed Blaine freaking Gabbert
like think
before
about
they
it.
signed Kaepernick.
Like, think about it. He would be better right now with the Browns than Brock Osweiler.
Right.
Okay? And the Browns
But
didn't
that's
want
the
him,
point.
you know?
So, yes, it is sort of blackball.
So I
to
think
a certain
it
extent.
is. I think it's partially, and I think the other part of it is the fact that he's just not that good. Plain and simple.
He's better than those guys. Number 2, Lonzo Ball could be headed to the Lakers when they select number 2 overall in next month's draft. But the team and head coach Luke Walton plan to speak to UCLA head coach Steve Alford about how involved Lonzo's father, LeVar Ball, Jesus Christ, Lonzo's father, LeVar Ball, was with the team.
Just for the record,
I don't
I don't take a personal interest in you fucking it up.
Listen, you're going to write a sentence like Alfred Ball, Lonzo, LeVar. It's kind of difficult. It's been no secret that LeVar Ball has been quite outspoken, even saying the Bruins lost in the NCAA tournament because they had 3 slow white guys on the court. Is Lonzo Ball to the Lakers a slam dunk in June's NBA draft?
Well, one thing I've learned about the NBA draft is nothing is really a slam dunk, where guys who are projected to go in certain spots normally don't. I think the Lakers are doing a right thing by just trying to figure out if this guy's going to be a real pain in the ass. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to do much. I think if they really want Lonzo Ball, they're going to draft Lonzo Ball. Here's what I'm going to say, though. If Lonzo Ball fails in the NBA, and I'm not saying he will, I don't think it'll have anything to do with his father. I think it'll have. I said the only thing that will contribute to Lonzo Ball's downfall is Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, he's, like, I know the father. Listen, let's call it what it is. The father is just, he couldn't hack it as a pro in football or whatever, so this is what he's doing. He's living vicariously through his son. He knows his son is going to be a lottery pick, so he's using the media to basically, just talk shit and talk shit and talk shit. The more you entertain it, the more he's going to keep doing it. The problem is that they can't really get away from it because it's news, and then they're just going to report it because
it's
they
only
can do it.
news because they report it.
You
If
know?
you just let him talk into the wind, eventually he's going to stop talking.
Now, the thing is, I won't call Lonzo Ball a slam dunk to the Lakers because they still have D'Angelo Russell unless they try to trade D'Angelo Russell so they can move Lonzo Ball right into that spot. But I don't think whatever Steve Alford tells them at the end of the day or any UCLA representative, I don't think it's going to make any difference in how the Lakers approach the draft in June.
If he's not on the Lakers, I'll be surprised.
And that's what I'm saying. Most mocks have him going to the Lakers. And he's only working out for the Lakers. So in many ways, it almost seems like it's a foregone conclusion he's going. But then the one thing about the NBA draft is, again, when you think it's going to happen, sometimes it just doesn't. And he might drop a little bit, or he'll go right to number 2.
Maybe.
Number 3, now that the Celtics have the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, former Celtic Paul Pierce thinks now is the time for the team to trade that pick for a superstar to get them over the top and winning a championship. Quote, "You're a 50-win team. You're the number 1 seed. You have to build on this momentum. If you can acquire a Paul George, Jimmy Butler, or Gordon Hayward from Utah, you have to do it," end quote. Pierce said as a guest on The Jump with Rachel Nichols. Does it make sense for the Celtics to keep this pick?
No, it doesn't, actually, because the 2 best players in the draft are point guards, and you have 2 of them that you like on your team in Bradley and Thomas. And he's right. Now, out of those guys, man, and I get Gordon Hayward's been good. I get it. But Gordon Hayward's not the answer. If the Celtics had Gordon Hayward on this team, do you really think they're beating the freaking Cavaliers? No, of course not. I don't even think that's Paul George. The only one of those 3 I would trade the first-round pick for is Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler has proven that he can play offense, defense, and he can play a whole game.
See, the one thing about we talked about it with the Celtics during the NBA trade deadline was how they didn't really make a move. They just kind of stayed where they were, and they kept where they were. And they had a shot to get Jimmy Butler, and they didn't want to give up that number 1 pick. And the thing is, next year they're going to have 2 first-rounders because they're going to have the Nets first-rounder and their own first-rounder. Why not trade it at this point? Listen, if you draft Markelle Fultz number 1 overall, and you ship him to Chicago as part of a package to get Jimmy Butler, you've just made your team that much better. And next year you still have 2 first-round picks. Now, I don't know if it'll be a lottery pick next year, depending if the Nets get better or whatever, if they make improvements. But the thing is, he's 100% right. They are a win-now team. They are the number 1 seed in the fucking Eastern Conference. It's like you have to start. Why keep accumulating all this draft capital for kids that are just not going to play when you already have Isaiah Thomas, who you might want to sign to a max deal, when he's up for a free agent. You have Avery Bradley. You have Jay Crowder, Al Horford. And the Celtics are always going to be active in free agency, too, going after stud players. So, yeah, they should. I don't know if you could trade the pick now, or you have to draft the guy and then ship him out to Chicago. But if you can get Jimmy Butler, I would get it. I think Paul George is going to the Lakers. So I don't even think it matters. As for Gordon Hayward, I think he's staying in Utah. So Butler just seems like the main guy.
Good. Number 4, LeGarrette Blount has a new home, leaving the Patriots to sign a 1-year, $2.8 million deal with the Eagles. Blount will join a crowded back. It's
Blunt. I don't fucking care. Blunt.
It's spelled
You've
Blount,
watched enough NFL football.
Care. I'm tired of pronouncing names wrong
penis.
and the way they're not spelled. So from now on, when your name spells Blount, I'm pronouncing it Blount. You don't get to change how the English language works because your stupid parents are idiots and don't know how the English language works.
Stop being a penis.
Blount will join a crowded backfield in Philly with Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, and Wendell Smallwood. It's not Smallwood.
It's Smallwood.
Yeah, exactly. See, as it's friggin' spelled. However, Matthews could be released. The Giants were reportedly interested in Blount as well when he opted to sign with Philadelphia to give second-year QB Carson Wentz another weapon on offense. Do the Eagles have enough to overtake the Giants and Cowboys for the NFC East?
I think they do. I just don't know if they will. I mean, I think that their offense is pretty stacked, but I think their secondary is really bad. And when you're going up against teams like the Cowboys and the Giants that are loaded on offense, you might get torched. I mean, they have a good defensive line. Their linebackers are okay, but their secondary outside of their 2 safeties, their cornerbacks are pretty bad. And they didn't really address the cornerback in the draft or free agency, so that could come back to bite them in the ass when they're playing Beckham and Shepard and Des Bryant and Brandon Marshall and all that stuff. On offense, I think they're pretty strong. I think Carson Wentz has plenty of weapons now, bringing in Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Blunt, and Zach Ertz, not to mention Sproles out of the backfield, and Jordan Matthews is number 3. The NFC East, I think, is going to be really, really competitive this year. I think all 4 teams are going to be pretty solid. And it's going to be kind of a dogfight, I think, all year long. I don't think it's necessarily just going to be between the Giants and Cowboys. And I wouldn't necessarily count the Redskins out yet. But I think overall, do I think the Eagles have enough to overtake them? Yes. Do I think they will? No, I don't.
They don't.
Why?
Because they don't have enough offensive weapons and they don't have enough defensive secondary.
How can you say they don't have enough offensive weapons?
The Eagles?
Yeah.
Who?
Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Zach Ertz.
Alshon Jeffrey's been hurt for the last
Darren
2 years.
Sproles.
Darren Sproles is the only guy I'll give you. Because
Okay,
but no, he's the only guy I'll give you, and here's why.
Stop it.
What has LeGarrette Blount done for any other team besides the Patriots?
Who cares?
What do you mean, who cares?
Who cares what he's done with other
For
teams?
any other team but the Patriots, what has he done?
He was pretty decent
Nothing.
for the Steelers.
Nothing.
Get the fuck out.
He's not done nothing. I'm not worried about LeGarrette Blount.
He's not there to be a 1,500-yard
Okay,
rusher.
but I'm saying that Alshon Jeffrey, fine. What is he now? I have no idea because he hasn't been healthy for 2 years. And Torrey Smith, I'm supposed to get excited about Torrey freaking Smith?
Listen, I think they're better than where they were last year.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm not excited. Let me put it this way. Their wide receiving core does not scare me with the Giants secondary. It just doesn't.
Okay.
It just doesn't.
But don't fucking say that they don't have anything on offense.
They don't have a great offensive team right now. Bunch of guys who are going to be on the team for 1 year.
I couldn't disagree with you more. Number 5, the 2018 NFL Draft could have 3 QBs taken in the first 3 picks, with one of them being Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen. It's very rare, if ever, someone mentions a player from the University of Wyoming as a potential top 3 pick, and Allen, in an attempt to combat all the pressure and being a high draft pick, is turning to Johnny Manziel as a mentor. Allen told CBS Sports, quote, "Not just on the field, but off the field, staying out of the spotlight, doing the right things," end quote. Is Manziel the right person to coach Allen on his quick rise to being famous?
I mean, look, if you aspise to the theory that drug addicts or former drug addicts are the best people to teach new drug addicts how to live with the addiction of being a drug addict, then yes, Manziel is the perfect person to teach this kid about this. The problem is Manziel really know any? Like, has Manziel grown up enough for this to be warranted?
Quite frankly, has Manziel kept himself out of trouble enough to warrant being a mentor?
And so the answer to that is no. So, I mean, look, you could do whatever you want, but at the same time,
I could think about 50 other mentors that he could probably go to.
Peyton Manning is retired.
Here's the thing.
I mean,
here's the thing I kind of like. It's interesting because guys who have hit rock bottom, who have been in a lot of trouble, they think they're automatically the right choice to mentor people to do what they didn't do. The problem with Johnny Manziel is he hasn't exactly kept his nose out of trouble. Now, I don't have a problem with him going out partying and all that stuff on occasion, but the fact is that when it affected your career, it affected your football career to pretty much where you have nothing, and no team wants to take a chance on you. So if you're going to sit there and tell me that there's no way that you're the right guy to tell this kid how to live his life, because technically speaking, it's not like you've given up that life too. So if you're going to tell this kid, well, you got to stay away from this, and you got to stay away from this, but then you're out partying, then it's hypocritical. It's very hypocritical. There are about 50 other mentors I could think would be better than Johnny Manziel, but if you really think he's the right guy, then I guess you reap what you sow.
Absolutely. Number 6, Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick. Did I pronounce that right? It's not Swarbrock or Swarbrick.
What's your fucking attitude?
Officially squashed rumor the Fighting Irish
Not everybody has an easy name as Matt Stevens.
Would be moving to the ACC full-time for football. Notre Dame joined the ACC for all other sports except football back in 2014, but part of their arrangement is they still play 5 ACC teams on their schedule despite being an independent. The Irish football program also has a lucrative TV deal with NBC and don't have to split any of the profits with other schools. Would it be a good or bad thing for Notre Dame to join the ACC for football full-time?
From a financial perspective, it would be a bad thing because their deal with NBC means they reap all the profits, and that's pretty much what it is. If they had to go to an ACC deal, obviously, just like I said, just like it was written, they have to split with all the schools. Here's the reason why it's ultimately a bad thing. Because if Notre Dame goes to the ACC, plays an ACC schedule, they're going to get trounced. The thing is that they just have higher standards with the way they kind of recruit athletes, because they don't just recruit athletes for athletics, they do it for academics as well. Whereas schools like Florida State, schools like Clemson, I'm not saying they don't stress academics, but it's not exactly a top priority compared to Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is pretty much at a little bit of a disadvantage because this is what they are. And until they dummy down their standards, which they're never going to do, they're going to always be, they're not going to be selected over Clemson, which wins national championships, Florida State, which is always competing for national championships, and other schools. North Carolina is a better school in the ACC, has been better in football. So as, what's the other school? Shit. Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, all those schools are pretty solid. Even Duke's been pretty decent in the ACC. It's better for them to be an independent because, again, they set their own schedule. Notre Dame actually gives themselves tough opponents. But playing an ACC schedule full-time, they would just get trounced. And the thing is, like I said, they just don't recruit the best of the best because they set their athletes to higher standards.
If you thought you were good enough to win the ACC, which would give you an easier path to being in the national championship Final Four, then I would say yes. But I think where Notre Dame football is right now, it's better for them to stay independent because they have a better chance of going undefeated as an independent than they do in the ACC.
And the thing is, even as an independent, they haven't been good. They were bad last
year.
Right, no,
but I'm saying that it's. Don't you agree though that they have a better shot of getting into that discussion because
they'll beat Navy, they'll beat Army, they'll beat if they and they get a lot of easy schools in the independents. They also get tough schools. But at the same time, I think if you had to play an ACC schedule, they would just get trounced. It wouldn't even be close.
I agree.
Number 7, if you talk to Calvin Johnson, it doesn't sound like he'll be returning to the NFL or the Detroit Lions anytime soon. Megatron was interviewed by the Detroit Free Press and was asked about the possibility of his jersey being retired by the Lions. And he said he doesn't speak with the team because he felt mistreated by them on his way out, including being asked to return a portion of his signing bonus from his contract. Johnson retired after the 2015 season due to the team's struggles as well as health concerns. Can the relationship between the Lions and Megatron ever be repaired?
Sure. I mean, it can always be repaired. Money is a great thing when you think about it. If they come to him and say, you know what, Calvin, we were stupid. We don't need that money back. It's ludicrous. And we apologize for asking. And if we treated you poorly on the way out, well, we apologize for that too. What can we do to make it better? Would you like to be like a special assistant? And we'll pay you some money to do that too. It'll be fun. It'll be like you go in for spring camp only and you're there during training camp. And then you don't have to ever come back during the season if you don't want to. There's always ways to make things better. And money is usually the way they do it. So there's absolutely a way to do this. I also think that some of these players are just a little too sensitive, just a little too butthurt a lot of the time. It's a business. A lot of them end up running businesses and probably make the same decisions later in life. Just relax. You made them money. You are no longer going to make them money. They don't need to treat you the same. It's as simple as that.
I always think situations like this, you give it a couple of years, and then they go back to him and they say, yeah, well, let's retire your jersey. And then all of a sudden it's water under the bridge.
Sure.
Look, when Calvin Johnson played, the Lions were pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, their defense was horrible. I mean, it was pretty much him and Stafford before they finally brought a guy in like Golden Tate. They never really addressed their running game. Their offensive line was bad and everything. So in a sense, Calvin Johnson, I mean, the Lions kind of wasted quite a bit of Calvin Johnson's years, even though they paid him a lot of money. At the end of the day, though, again, I just think that these things will get repaired over time. I mean, right now there is some salt in the wounds. But again, in a couple of years, in 2019, let's say, if they decide, let's do a Calvin Johnson retirement ceremony, I don't think he's going to say no to it, and I think that at the end of the day, they'll mend the bridge, and it'll be pretty much done after that.
The number 8, the NFL spring meetings take place this week, and a few of the rules up for approval include shortening the overtime from 15 minutes to 10 minutes, as well as adding an extra IR spot for players to return during the season. As for the overtime, while some like the idea because of player safety, others, including Saints QB Drew Brees, are opposed to it because they feel there will be more tie games than normal. Does reducing the overtime by 5 minutes make any sense for the NFL?
No, I don't. I don't really
window dressing.
I don't see the point of it. I think player safety to me just seems like an excuse. It doesn't seem like it's
window dressing.
Yeah, it just seems to me like if you really want to, either just go to the I prefer the college way, sudden death. Go back and forth. I love it.
It's not football. You start at the 20. It's nonsense.
But the thing is, again, if you're
nonsense.
It's either that or you play a 15-minute overtime and players don't like it, and it's just boring and and everything. So again, I think shortening it to 5 extra minutes does absolutely nothing for the NFL, does absolutely nothing for the players, because you could just run the same risk of injury in 10 minutes.
Well, no, they just ran the numbers and found that most games ended before that time, and so they just made it that time. And if there are more tie games, then there are more tie games. What are they going to do?
But again, I'd rather I would do the college football way. That's just the way I would do it. But again, it's up to them, but I don't think it makes any sense. I do like the IR spot, though. I'm
Yeah,
okay
that's
with.
nice.
I think that's pretty good.
I
Mainly,
don't understand why that just isn't every guy.
I just think the team. The thing is,
You know what I mean?
Teams
Like-
are like hard pressed to put these guys out for the season. And
Right.
they may come back.
And that's what I'm saying. It should be, you can always come back from injury no matter what.
Yeah, it should be the equivalent of like the disabled list.
Yeah.
Just, if you come back week 7, you come back week 7. But, it puts a lot of pressure on teams to make these tough decisions on players. If they miss 10 weeks, then they wind up missing the season when they could easily come back week 11, week 12, and you're in a playoff hunt. They could easily, they could be the difference maker. You never know.
Yeah.
So I don't care about the 5 minutes, but I'm fine with the IR. And with that, closing time is officially over.
Yo.
And that concludes this podcast for the week. And we'd like to thank everybody for listening. As always, check us out, polaropposites.podbean.com, as well as iTunes. And follow us on Twitter at polaropposites1. Back next week, more baseball, basketball, if we decide to get into it. Football, if we decide to get into it, or whatever is going on. And anything else we could squeeze into an hour and a half or so. One more time, polaropposites.podbean.com, iTunes, and Spreaker.com. And then follow us on Twitter at polaropposites1. Enjoy the week, enjoy the games, enjoy life, and have a day.
Bye.